With me being so obsessed with Sonic at the minute, I mean, can you really blame me? Sonic Movie 3 was pretty damn good. I recently bought an Amy Rose plush head. Isn't it cute? Doesn't it give you good vibes? I'm putting it in the background just to, give us a bit of pinky positivity, because I feel like we need it. Look, I said at the start of the year, I don't want to do videos just hating on Payday 3 things, and that is not what this video is. Let me make that very clear from the get-go. I can see both sides of the main argument that's in this title, and I'm going to offer you both sides, both from why it's bad and why I understand it. Not necessarily it's a good thing, but whatever. Let's just get the big thing out of the way first that I do want to talk about, just to lead this, because I really do want to praise what I can when I can. This trailer for Payday 3 is absolutely brilliant. I really love it. It's one of, if not the best DLC trailers Payday 3's had. Super well edited, and it's actually done by Little Guy G, former Just Starbreeze partner, now Starbreeze staff member, and it's very clear they picked up a really good talent with him, and I think it just further goes to prove that Starbreeze devs really care about Payday 3. I've said this time and time again, but I just think it's another notch to that belt of proving that point, that, they really do make sure that the people working on Payday 3, people who really care about the franchise and want it to do well. It's obviously just the executives that don't do that quite as much, and perhaps, as Jacket was doing there, hold the devs hostage and make them do things or not do things that they'd like to do. I think that's a very big problem I like to keep reinforcing. But as you can see right here, this baseball bat is causing a little bit of a stir. A lot of content creators are making points about it, or just wider community sentiment. At least in my community, I've seen a lot of negativity towards it, but I know there's an overall discussion being had about making a melee weapon, something that's been very highly requested for Payday 3. I'm going to loop this trailer in the background while I'm doing this intro, because you know how much I like to waffle. But with that bat being added, there is an argument that a melee system, something that people have been asking for since Payday 3 was first out in beta and noticed there wasn't, is something that is being added to this game, at least bare bones skeleton-wise via an overkill weapon, but it's being locked behind a paywall. You have to remember, this is a trailer for a character pack. It's not a dev update video. It's not an update numbered trailer. It's for this specific pack. So anything within this that they tease as a feature of this pack is behind a DLC, and that means that anything here that doesn't have a free counterpart, like a melee weapon overskill system, is going to then be locked behind a paywall, which isn't the best thing for Payday 3, because they want to make sure that, it's accessible for players to get whatever systems are in the game as a free version, even if they release DLC versions later. You wouldn't expect them to release a DLC pistol without there being free pistols in the game, at least you'd hope not. And so obviously, that's a big point of contention for this trailer pack. But let's first just go over the character pack itself, just the features that are within it, via looking at this trailer. I can't play it with audio because it's age restricted, and apparently Noli tried to, and his video got age restricted as a result, so I figured having up blank and me talking over it on my camera should hopefully not be a problem. So, Jacket's coming with his usual mask, Richard Rising. I mean, the outfit, I'll pause actually, is very similar to Payday 2's, like a couple of touch-ups here and there, but he looks basically the exact same as he did in Payday 2, which I really, really love. It's very much just a one-to-one copy. You've then got the Miami Decadence preset weapon, which I think looks like it's for the Ziv Commando. Once again, a character being added with a preset weapon rather than a unique weapon. Definitely a loss to these things, and especially now with it being a DLC, it's less value for money, I fear. It was a big part of these DLC packs. You would get a character, you get a perk deck with them, which, I mean, they're not coming in this, let's be fair. I know we've got the overskill weapon system technically, but let's get to that in a minute. But also, you would have a unique weapon for them. So when Sydney was added, who's one of my favourite characters, as a lot of you probably know, she had the bootleg assault rifle, which kind of was a unique thing. It was somewhere between an assault rifle and an LMG, but it wasn't enough of a new thing that, kind of caused a bit of a stir per se. It had its ups and its downs, but it was still unique to her, and you got that when you bought her character pack. Here you get a lick of paint and some preset attachments for a gun you already have and could customize in this way. So it's not great in terms of a USP. And so when you're making a DLC pack, you got to make sure there is a unique selling point, a USP to it. And unfortunately, beyond Jacket as a character, this is what they're going with. The Sociopath Overskill weapon, which, by the way, seems to, in tandem, confirm this update will come with Overskills. They haven't actually said that yet, but it seems like this is going to be part of the character pack, and therefore Overskills must be coming with it, because you wouldn't release one Overskill and then not release the rest, right, Starbreeze? I'm being sarcastic here, it's fairly obviously going to, but because they haven't said it, it leaves it up to at least a little bit of debate. I think the full system is coming with it. That would make sense. It would be logical. But there is a point to be made, as I've said, that melee weapons, being something that's very popular for Payday 2, something that's really wanted in Payday 3, is going to be first added, even bare bones, behind an overskill weapon as a paid feature for the game. Let's talk about the good and bad of this. So first off, let's talk about the bad. Why is it bad? And then I'll talk about why I think it actually makes sense as to why they're doing it, whether I like it or not. I've got a few things I want to bring up here, or at least I might mention at different points, such as Lucky's new video he's just put up. There's a clip from an Almir stream that I do want to bring up in a little bit, and also some Steam charts and feature upvote stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, as I've said already, player counts for Payday 3, not a full story, but worth mentioning for a point I do want to make. So, let's look at the feature upvote page first. Why is this so important in melee weapons? Well, this page has not been updated in a little bit, so Starbreeze, please, thank you. This should be marked as, well, not happening anymore or happening. Say something about offline mode, please. We keep telling you. Gonna keep saying it like this. Getting very annoying. It was part of Operation Medic Bag. Why haven't you done it? Why haven't you acknowledged it? Okay, enough. That's the same pitch for about 6 different sentences. You get my point there. Anyway, we know there's a new skill system coming, so they could mark this as at least partially planned. They could say that CrimeNet is marked as done, so there's things they need to update here. So if we count this as planned and we count this as done, let's look at things that aren't done. So there's 1, 2, 3, scroll down a little bit, 4, 5, marked as not done, so could you count that? Probably not. 6, 7, 8. The 8th most requested and not currently added feature to Payday 3 is to add melee weapons to Payday 3, but it's one of the few things on here with more than 1,000 upvotes. There are plenty of things below it with much less than 1,000 upvotes, so even it being 8th, while it's not like top 5 or top 3, it's had enough attention, enough upvotes to make it clear that the Payday community really do want this in the game. So with that in mind, what are they going to do about melee weapons? I mean, they should have been in the game from day one. You can say about a lot of things with this, but now it's about trying to make sure they add the things in that the game needs. And so now we're getting this overskill weapon, which, to remind you, the overskill system is something announced in a dev blog a little while ago, which confirms that you're going to be able to get upgradable versions of your overkill or overskill weapons, depending on what it is. For example, the interceptor that's being added is not a weapon, it's a skill you'll be able to use in stealth, and the more you use it, the more you get upgrades for it, like a perk deck, to make that particular one better, or any other of that weapon you pick up from, say, another player. So if you upgrade your Red Fox and have the Red Fox overskill equipped, should you pick up someone else's Red Fox, it'll apply to that too. That's what we're talking about here. So it's kind of like a perk deck system, which is why, like I said, with the DLC character pack, you kind of had a perk deck in Payday. Well, you did have a perk deck in Payday 2. You kind of got one in Payday 3 via this. But the problem is, this overskill system is going to allow you to have a melee weapon that has some actual impact. As of right now, the only melee action you have in Payday 3 is to whack ace a cop with a gun butt or whack a civilian, and it does 0 damage to either of them. So it isn't really a melee system. It's a cosmetic thing that will knock a cop back or knock a civvy to the ground. Not really worth even giving credit to in some ways, because it just doesn't really do anything per se. So what do they do about a melee weapon? Actually adding a melee weapon to the game, they make it an overskill weapon that's going to be locked behind a paywall. I don't blame people for being annoyed about this. I am partially annoyed about it myself. Like I said, I understand why. I'm going to get to that. But especially when it's a feature that's so wanted by the Payday community, granted it is not just a melee weapon you equip, it is something you have to call in. I really hope that for once we don't have to wait for Bile to drop off a baseball bat. That'd be really bloody stupid. I seriously hope you just pull it out from behind your back. For context, partners do not have access to the build yet at all. I'm imagining we'll get it at some point soon with the character coming on February 3rd, but we haven't played it yet at all, so we don't know how this is going to look. Let me make that very clear here. But point being, it's going to finally give you a way to use a melee weapon, but it's not going to be accessible to every player. It's going to be behind a paywall. And even though it's not a full melee system, it's still close enough to one that it bears some contention and also is worthy of some discussion. And I don't like it. I really, really don't like it. But let me try and explain to you why I think they've done it this way, because I do think it's worth acknowledging. And it's not as some big Starbreeze defender I think you've seen from a lot of my videos recently, that I don't think I'm the Starbreeze executive's favourite person right now. So trust me, I'm not here trying to earn any brownie points. I'm just trying to explain the situation from my point, and the Steam charts are part of that point. If you look, I have 2 peaks here that I've picked for this specific window of Payday 3 Steam player counts. And again, bear in mind, this is just Steam. Doesn't count for Epic Game Store or Xbox or PlayStation. But with Steam being a very big player base of Payday via Payday 2, you can make some conclusions, at least the one that I want to make, which is as follows. This is the peak player count when the free update adding the new UI and server browser came to Payday 3 at the end of October, on October 30th. 2,500 players. This is the player count when much requested and very popular, well-loved classic heist First World Bank got added for Payday 3 for free just over a month later. 2,012 players. 500 less, a 20% drop compared to the UI update, which didn't actually add any content. It's very clear to me that even content people really, really love is not even enough to pull people back at this point, and Starbreeze are clawing at whatever they can to try and get Payday 3 back to the way it was, or back to the way it could be, or should be, like Payday 2 is. Now, granted, this could partially be an effect from Starbreeze being like, hey, so, you know how we had elevated interest in year 1, elevated investment in staff? Well, we're done with Operation Medic Bag now. You're not, because there's no offline mode. We're done with Operation Medic Bag, so we're going to reduce that investment in that player count. We're confident we'll still deliver the same things. The player base clearly ain't confident in you. That very much reflects it, because First World Bank was implemented fairly well in a lot of ways, not so well in other ways. I know I didn't really give as much credit to the loud version not being quite as strong as it could have been. I recommend watching Noli's video for that, because he made a few points. I didn't actually fully realise the loud engagement is really not very good in the latter half of the heist. But especially for the stealth and the map design, the effort put into it, it was very strong in those regards, and I really did like a lot of what it did. but it didn't reflect in players. And since then, all it's done is drop. There's a bit of a rise now up to 1,500 players, maybe in the anticipation of Jacket coming. But the point is, there's not been that big increase in players that Starbreeze have wanted all this time for Payday 3. I mean, if we expand the graph even further, you'll see that when there've been these big updates, look, you get quite big increases for previous DLC updates or certain events happening in the game. But look at that. I mean, you look at that graph now, that's between November in 2023 and present day, so more than a 12-month range. We're not even getting the peaks we had for previous updates. The interest in Payday 3 is at an all-time low, and you've got more people talking about it than you have playing it, which is also a point I want to make in Lucky's video, which I'm not going to play or react to anyway. I'm just going to recommend you watch it. But Lucky, if you don't know, is one of the most positive Payday 3 content creators and recently became a Starbreeze partner in the last 6 months or so, I think. I can't remember the date. I'm sure he won't hate me for not remembering the date he joined the program. But the point being is that he's been very positive. And I don't think the title alone, I should say, is enough to prove to you that he's not feeling so positive anymore. I think there's definitely a point to make that the people who liked Payday 3 at launch were very positive about it, are now seeing the direction Payday 3 is going and aren't really loving it too much. And the people who didn't love Payday 3 at launch but wanted it to get better are still not really loving the game too much. There are people who are still finding fun in it. I see a lot of people saying to me in Twitter replies and comments saying, is the game perfect? No. Is it fun? Yes, and that's fair. Fair play to you. But I think there's definitely a case you made that with the more positive people not enjoying it as much, and it would be remiss for me to not at very least acknowledge that Mariner Top Hat, fellow Starbreeze partner, well, no longer has left the program because he just doesn't see the game getting better. He's hopeful he'll be wrong, but he doesn't have a lot of hope. I very much share that sentiment, but I mean, you know, I was part of the opening of the Starbreeze partner program. I kind of want to see it through to the end now, so I don't think I'll be leaving it unless something particularly happens to push me in that direction. I said I wanted to stick with Payday 3 sink or swim, and, you know, I still stand by that. But my point to all of this, my point to everything, the player count, the negativity it's building, and the general sentiment around the game is this. Payday 3 is on its last roll of the dice. This is it now. There's nothing that's been discussed in the Starbreeze partner server to actually acknowledge that. Let me make that very clear right now. But I think it's kind of obvious to see, and I know that sounds depressing, but allow me to explain it from where I'm seeing it. First World Bank, as I said, was a very well-requested heist, and it didn't do enough to move the needle in getting people back to Payday 3. Jacket is a character that has been begged for by the Starbreeze community, by the Payday community even, I should say specifically, because, let's face it, Starbreeze community is pushing it, who's really excited for Project Baxter. But point being, Payday 3 players have been begging Starbreeze time and time and time and time again to add Jacket, to the point where when I was reporting the dev streams in Payday 3 close after launch, every single video would be going, they also mentioned Jacket about 6 times, but I'm sick of talking about it, because they wanted it so much. It was very clear. So this is Starbreeze basically saying, alright you lot, here's the thing you've asked for so much. Please invest in it, and hopefully we'll be able to pull things back. That's what they're saying without saying it. And so to me, it is very clear that this is what they're hoping will be the final thing to really shift the needle. If Jacket can't pull the numbers that Starbreeze want them to, goodness knows what their numbers are, but I'd certainly bet it's hopefully higher than whatever you've got here, then I think it's going to be curtains for Payday 3, at least in any meaningful sense. We don't know what's coming in terms of future content, and it's very easy that some of that stuff could get pulled. Because if they can't pull back some sales and some players based on the most requested character this game has had, what hope is there for anything else they create, original or remastered in any way, shape or form? So this is the time where they're hoping everyone will buy the character pack. And there will be people who are not tuned into the Payday 3 mainframe who will see, oh, Jacket character pack, that's like the guy in Hotline Miami or the guy in Payday 2, however you know him. I'm going to buy that. And maybe that will be enough to sell it. Who knows? I really don't know. That is a point that really should be considered. Not everyone is tuned into the mainframe like we are, and people might just buy this. But that's why I think they're putting a melee weapon behind a paywall, even as an overkill weapon, because they want you to have a reason to buy the DLC to try and show that there's still life in the old dog yet. If there's no reason to buy Jacket beyond just liking the character, are people going to buy it? Not really. And there's even people I've seen in my comments again, in my Twitter replies and all that saying, even though I like Jacket, I'm not putting any more money into this game because I'm not sure that it's going to be a wisely used investment. There's no guarantee right now that with Payday 3 generating a profit, which it hasn't done since launch, that the money you put into Starbreeze via this DLC isn't going to go to Project Baxter, isn't going to go to the third live service title that's coming out in 2028. There's no guarantee where your money's going. And so I feel it very important to remind you all, it is not your job, as fans of this franchise, or as consumers generally, to make up for the mistakes of a studio that let you down. That is blunt, but it's very much the truth of this situation. I am not going to sit here and say to you, Payday 3 really could pull it back if we get enough sales for Jacket, so you should buy it. Because while as a creator who makes Payday 3 videos, and that's what I'm most known for, it would be in my interest to sell it to you so I could get more things to talk about content-wise, I'm not at a point where I want to recommend purchasing anything of Payday 3. I don't think the game's at that point, and I think, unfortunately, while I know the devs are trying their damnedest, and I know a lot of them watch these videos, and I'm really sorry sorry I'm saying this because I know you guys are putting the work in. The way that the executives have treated this game and shown that they don't really care about the future of it, despite saying it's their priority and then showing very much otherwise, just proves to me that there isn't that mutual trust between Starbreeze as a company and us as the fans of a franchise who've had more mistakes than we can count, but still always had the fans there for them. There is a point where, you know, luck runs out, where hope runs out, and I think we're at that position now. I am not going to judge, I know it sounds dramatic, I'm not going to judge or criticize, and I encourage you all to be the same way. If anyone goes out there and says, I'm buying Jacket because I want to support Starbreeze, that is their choice, okay? I will only recommend what I think. It is down to you to make your own call, and I think that's very important that some people don't really bear in mind. It's down to each individual person to make their purchase decision. Please do not judge anyone for it. I just don't think personally I would recommend buying this because I don't know where the game's going to go, and if you're buying it with that future in mind, it's not worth the purchase. If you're buying it because you like Jacket, just get it. Just go for it. Have fun with it. Don't rob yourself of the fun. Really, seriously. But I think it's important to know that they are doing this character pack in this way with this melee weapon, something that should be in the game for free, because they want to try and pull you to buy the DLC. Time will tell if it actually works. I really don't know. But I do want to bring up one more thing that I think is very, very important, which is this clip I've been sent. Someone said to me in one of my Twitter replies that Almir had made a comment saying that any weapon system that was added to the game, any new weapon class that was added to Payday 3 should have a free counterpart, because that's very important to the franchise, to the players, to make sure that any new way to play Payday 3 isn't immediately put behind a paywall. I'm going to turn my camera off, my microphone off, and I'm just going to play this clip for you, just so you can listen to it, because it is important, but I'm going to make a point afterwards, because I know Almir is probably going to get a bit of points, especially because he was brought up in Lucky's video, so let me acknowledge that bit separately. First, here's the stream clip.
Wild Nugatino says, thank you for answering the question, answering the weapon pack DLC question, Almir. I think the main backlash was for locking a weapon class, LMG Sniper, into DLC. Mixing different classes, perhaps by theme, could prevent that. Stay strong, thank you for everything. You're completely right, Wild Nugatino. That is exactly what was the issue with the Gauge pack at the time. And obviously, we took the learning from then. I would do it the way you are suggesting if we were to introduce something similar again. Absolutely. Something we learned doing Payday 2 is that if you introduce a new weapon class, a weapon type, like a sniper class, right, and there are no other snipers, you cannot hide that behind a paywall exclusively. You need to have a free element so that the community that are unable to purchase or don't want to are still able to participate, right? It's extremely important, I think. And I think that was the best solution in Payday 2.
Yeah, not the best thing to have said considering what's happening now, but I'm going to go out in Almir's defense here, as I've done a few times recently, because I do think, despite Almir having a higher role within that development floor, I don't class Almir as a Starbreeze executive, and that's not because I like the guy, because I've met him or worked with him or whatever. It's nothing like that, and I genuinely mean that. I would be balanced here, and if I think Almir is part of the problem, I would say it. I think he'd expect me to say that. Almir is the game director of Payday 3 in tandem with Andreas, and they're only able to make decisions in Payday 3 with regards to what the executives give them. The people at the very highest level of the company, people directing the marketing, directing the company itself, the management, the brand, the finances, all that, those are the people who make those decisions. Almir might be the global brand director of Starbreeze, but he's not part of that upper echelon chain. He's only able to do to the game what he's given the opportunity to do by those executives. And this guy does bleed Payday. He loves this franchise so much. You could make the argument, as Lucky's made in his video, that Almir needs to just stop saying things like this and stop talking in this way to stop creating this problem. And I do think there's a bit of credence to that. I think sometimes he might do more harm than good with regards to what people think of the community. But I actually think Almir still means this. He said this 3 days ago when it was very much all locked in as to what was happening with this character pack. I think he still believes it, and I think he's saying that now to say that he agrees with you when this comes out. I think it's entirely possible that's what he's going for, and I think there is definitely probably a disagreement between the developers and the executives as to how things are run. I mean, do you really think the developers went to Starbreeze execs and went, hey, by the way, we've got too many team members and too much budget, you can knock us down a bit and we'll be fine? Definitely not what happened here, let's be fair. So I just want to acknowledge that, because while that clip does look very bad on the surface and makes Almir look like he's promising one thing and very quickly being undone by another that was his decision, I think he's just trying his best to say that he agrees with you, even if the decisions of what's going on don't quite reflect that. But yeah, so that's all the thoughts I wanted to share based on everything that we've seen from the trailer. Like I said, the trailer looks good, but there's just this general feeling right now that this could genuinely be the end. If you ask me to be a betting man and to put my money on which update I think is most likely to be the final content update for Payday 3, if things don't go well, I would put decent money on this update being it. That's not to doom post. I genuinely think that because we know nothing else content-wise for what's coming for Payday 3, even last year, we knew there'd be DLC updates coming or certain weapons at certain points when they tell us a bit ahead of time, whatever it may be. Remember when they teased the free LMG ahead of time? You don't get anything of that now. We knew Jacket was coming from last year, and I think he was meant to release last year, if we're being honest, and he's just been pushed back for whatever reason, probably reduced dev size and funding to make it happen in a more timely manner. So we don't know what's coming. This could be the final DLC or final actual new content for the game. It might not be, but it's worth going into this knowing that. You know, it's not the most positive quote, but as MJ said in No Way Home, expect disappointment and you'll never be disappointed. I unfortunately think that quote fits really well here. You've got to expect this could be the last content update, and while they could still get things out like Armor 2.0, the skill system, yada, 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 you might expect maybe when they do that to add new content with it. We don't know. You've got to go into this with a balanced look, not glass half full, not glass half empty. You've got to be realistic, because unfortunately at this point with this game, that's the only way you can be. And anything else, I think, would personally be a fool's errand at this point. If you want to play as Jacket in Payday 3, if you're excited by what's in here, buy it. Don't stop yourself or let me saying something that I've said or people saying on Twitter what they've said stop you from that. Do not rob yourself of your own enjoyment. You've only got one life. Enjoy it the way you want, as long as you're not hurting people. Doesn't need saying, but let's make that clear. But as far as I'm concerned, I won't recommend this DLC to you. I will review it when it comes out. I will talk it through to you, but I will give you the exact same points and the exact same notes in that video as I do here. I think this is the breaking point of Payday 3. I do. I really do. And so for that reason, I can't really blame whoever made the decision to put this melee weapon into the character pack for doing that. I can't blame them for that. Even if it's not a full melee system, it's close enough that it's worth the point, but I don't blame them putting it as part of this pack, because really, if it does shift the needle and does get Payday 3 in a better place, then maybe it was worth the sacrifice. Who knows? And hell, maybe Almir is saying what he said in that stream to say, hey, look, if we can get a bit more funding and support this way, we won't make this choice again. This is a very much we need to do it. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather let the guy speak for himself, and hopefully he will if it's acknowledged in a stream in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to give my thoughts on it overall. I had a lot of waffle to say there, but I hope that at least a lot of it made sense. So there you go. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all when this update comes out on February 3rd, if not sooner. I mean, when is February 3rd? It's a week on Monday, so if there's more Payday news in between, I will let you all know. If not, I'll probably do a non-Payday video this week. Let me know what you think about stream highlight videos. That's something I've been considering recently. I played Sonic 06 on Twitch and had a fun time going through what was supposedly the worst Sonic game. Might edit that into a video. Let me know what you think about that. And then also, Crime Boss coming soon. I said about that for Rocky Rumble. That's still coming soon. I'm playing the game a lot in a minute. I'm quite excited to give that a try live on stream, or as part of a video, or both. Who knows? Thank you all for watching. See you all soon. Take care. Appreciate you.